Forget everything you know about the god of wine. You've been told he's the god of parties and celebration. You've been lied to. Dionysus isn't about the glass of wine on your table. He's about the madness in your blood. He is the god of the uncivilized self. And 2,500 years ago, in the city of Thebes, he didn't just bring a festival, he brought a massacre. Tonight, we go beyond the myth. We enter the forest of no return. This is the night of blood. The heat in Thebes was stifling, a thick, humid pressure that felt like a hand around the city's throat. King Pentheus stood on the high balcony of his palace, his knuckles white as he gripped the marble railing. Below, the city was whispering. "They call him the stranger, my lord," his captain muttered, keeping his head low. "They say he carries the scent of mountain lions and crushed grapes. They say wherever he walks, the women stop screaming in pain and start screaming in joy." Pentheus spat on the floor. He was a man of logic, of stone walls and iron laws. To him, this stranger, this golden-haired youth with the effeminate smile, was a virus. "He is no god," he hissed. "He is a cult leader, a charlatan. Drag him here. Put him in the deepest hole in the mountain. I want to see if a god can bleed through iron bars." But as the sun dipped below the horizon, turning the sky the color of a fresh bruise, a sound drifted from the mountains. It wasn't a song, it was a rhythmic, guttural thumping, 1,000 feet hitting the earth at once. The stranger was already at the gates. He didn't break them down. He didn't have to. The women of Thebes were opening them from the inside. Mothers, daughters, and even Pentheus's own mother, Agave, were walking out of their homes in a trance. Their eyes were wide, vacant, reflecting the first flickers of the torches being lit in the woods. The god had arrived. And he didn't want worship, he wanted a sacrifice. Logic died at the edge of the forest. King Pentheus watched from the shadows as the women he once knew, mothers, sisters, wives, shed their humanity like old skin. Under the silver glow of the full moon, they were no longer citizens of Thebes. They were the Maenads, the raving ones. In the heart of Mount Citharon, the air grew thick with the scent of pine needles and raw adrenaline. There were no altars here, no temples, only the mossy earth and the pulsing rhythm of the earth itself. Agave, the king's own mother, stood at the center of the clearing. Her hair was matted with ivy, her eyes reflecting a fire that didn't belong to this world. She let out a cry, a sound that was half human, half lioness, and the forest answered. Suddenly, the ground began to tremble. Milk and wine bubbled up from the soil where their staves struck the earth. But the miracle had a dark edge. The hunger was growing, a hunger that wine couldn't satisfy. They began to hunt, not with bows, not with arrows, but with their bare, trembling hands. In the whisper, the god of madness was smiling. The dance was just beginning, and it was going to end in blood. The air in the clearing turned cold. The singing stopped. The dancing stopped. Then came the breathing, heavy, primal, like a pack of wolves closing in. Pentheus, hidden in the branches of a towering fir tree, felt his heart hammering against his ribs. He came to mock a cult. He stayed to witness a nightmare. Below him, the ground was no longer covered in moss. It was covered in moving shadows. The Maenads began to circle. They didn't see a king. They didn't see a man. Through the haze of divine madness, they saw prey. Agave looked up. Her own son was in her sights, but the god had replaced his face with that of a mountain lion. She let out a shriek that shattered the silence of the night. "Behold," she cried, "the beast that haunts our hills!" They descended like a tidal wave of flesh and fingernails. Iron cannot stop a god, and stone cannot stop a mother possessed. This was the sparagmos. No blades, no mercy, just the raw, terrifying strength of humans turned into monsters. The forest echoed with a sound that would haunt Thebes for eternity. The sound of bone snapping, the sound of silk tearing. By the time the sun rose, the king was gone, and all that remained was the red stain on his mother's hands. The sun rose over Mount Cithaeron, cold and indifferent. As the first light touched the forest floor, the divine fever broke. The wine turned back into water, the madness into memory. Agave stood at the city gates of Thebes. In her hands she held her trophy, the head of the lion she believed she had hunted. She shouted for her son, the king. She wanted him to see her victory. But when her father, Cadmus, looked into her eyes, he didn't see a hunter. He saw a broken mother. "Look closer, Agave," he whispered. "Look at what you carry." The golden haze vanished. The fur head became hair. The claws became fingers. Agave looked down and saw the face of Pentheus, her son. A scream erupted from her soul, a sound so hollow it seemed to drain the color from the world. Dionysus stood on the hillside, watching the smoke rise from the city. He didn't come to be loved. He came to be remembered. Thebes was silent. The god was gone, and all that was left was the bitter taste of grapes and a kingdom built on ashes.
Thebes did not wake up to a celebration. It woke up to a funeral. As the sun climbed higher, the survivors of the mountain began to crawl back into the city, their white robes stained with a red that wouldn't wash away. But it wasn't the blood that was the most terrifying. It was the silence. No one spoke. No one cried. They had seen the face of a god, and it had stripped them of their words. Agave sat in the center of the square, the dust of the road mixing with the tears on her face. She looked at her father, Cadmus, and for the first time, the king of old looked small. The lineage of a hero had been erased in a single night of ecstasy.
Then the air changed. The scent of wine returned, but this time it was sharp, like vinegar. Dionysus appeared atop the city walls, no longer a stranger, but a titan of terror. He didn't come to offer mercy. He came to deliver judgment. "You denied my birth," his voice boomed, echoing not in their ears, but in their souls. "You called my mother a liar and my father a myth. Now you shall be the myth." With a wave of his hand, the noble house of Cadmus was exiled. They were to be turned into serpents, condemned to crawl in the dirt, forever stripped of the humanity they tried so hard to protect with their logic.
Thebes became a ghost city. The fire that burned in the hearts of the Maenads had burned the city to the ground. Dionysus left as quickly as he arrived, leaving behind a lesson written in bone and ash. Mankind likes to believe they are in control. We build walls, we write laws, we worship reason. But Dionysus is the reminder that beneath the skin there is a wild, untamed beast, and if you don't give the god his due, he will come and take it. The wind now howls through the ruins of Mount Cithaeron, and if you listen closely, you can still hear the rhythmic thumping of feet and the laughter of a god who never forgets.